Good afternoon and welcome to From Where We Are, stories of news and culture through the lens of USC and Southern California. I'm Colby Martin, coming to you live from Studio B in USC's Annenberg Media Center. It's Thursday, February 10th. On today's show, local unrest for the unhoused, studying the long-term effects of COVID in children, and Super Bowl at Lo-Fi. All that and more from Where We Are.
Bhupati. Russia is conducting large-scale military exercises and massing forces on three sides of Ukraine. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson called the Ukraine crisis Europe's most dangerous moment in decades. His government said it has 1,000 troops prepared to support Ukraine in the event of a humanitarian crisis caused by Russian aggression. President Biden said today any American citizens in Ukraine should leave now. Inflation rose faster than expected last month. Prices climbed 7.5% over the past year, and higher prices are affecting almost all sectors of the American economy. Economists say that this broadly felt effect increases the risk that this inflation could last a long time. 55 years after Super Bowl I took place at the LA Coliseum, Los Angeles is once again ready to host the big game this Sunday, when our own Rams will square off against the Cincinnati Bengals. With its new and expensive SoFi Stadium, LA might rejoin New Orleans and Miami in the club of elite football host cities. The National Football League has been prioritizing cities with newer stadiums and warmer February climates for hosting, but won't they be surprised when the temperatures this Sunday in LA, expected to be in the 80s, could mean that this Super Bowl 56 might be played in the hottest temperatures ever for the big game. These are some of the top stories in the news.
A new study released today says voters in LA do not trust their elected officials to improve the situation of the many unhoused people in Los Angeles. And the study says many citizens are angry at the situation. Xingqi Wang reports.
Quotes from Angelenos included in the report ranged from, "I'm not optimistic," to the point where "I'd prefer not to be here, and if it weren't for my grandkids, I'd be out of here," to "the degradation of life in LA is exponential, and I don't see an end. The politicians are doofuses," to "I run into one or two every day, and I wonder, this is someone's son. Did he refuse help? How can you help them? We're failing them." These are some of the replies that David Binder Research got last December when they conducted 6 focus groups on diverse citizens across LA County. Political strategist Jerry Schrago led the research. He says that no matter the ethnicity, gender, or age of the people they talked to,
in Los Angeles, there is an absolute, total, complete, without exception, lack of faith in city and county government to address homelessness. I mean, in all the years I've watched focus groups or conducted focus groups, and it's in the hundreds, been doing this for decades. Never have I seen this kind of consistency in focus group results.
the study also says that voters perceive a complete lack of accountability in the way public funds are spent, and they do not have an appetite for further tax increases labeled as "for the purpose of resolving the homelessness issue," and they don't think the situation will improve soon, says the strategist Jerry Schrago.
Voters do not have the expectation that we are suddenly somehow going to eradicate homelessness in Los Angeles. Again, uniformly, they see this as a problem that is going to be around for a long time. And what they're looking for is a realistic plan with clear measures and goals and a system of accountability to measure whether or not those goals are being met. That's very, very important. They want realistic goals. They want them to be ambitious enough to generate momentum and to make progress. And that means moving people into housing, getting them off the streets and getting them into housing.
Focus groups such as these do not give findings with statistical accuracy. They give more of a snapshot of what voters are thinking. But the researchers hope that their findings will influence the current race of the next mayor of Los Angeles. And finally, there was one other important finding in the study. Voters in general remain compassionate toward and empathetic with people experiencing homelessness. For Annenberg Media, I'm Coco Wong.
Doctors at Keck School of Medicine of USC are part of an $8 million grant to Children's Hospital Los Angeles. This was awarded to study the long-term effects of COVID in children. Dr. John Wood is the director of cardiovascular MRI at Children's Hospital Los Angeles. He joins us now to talk about the new research. Dr. Wood, thank you for joining us. Before we hear specifically about your research in this area, I just want to say it does seem that children and young people have been terribly affected by COVID over the last years. What are you seeing, and how worrisome is this?
Well, obviously, kids in general do better than the adults with COVID, but this first came to our attention because we saw a sudden uptick of problems with the coronary arteries, the arteries that actually supply the muscle of the heart, starting shortly after the first COVID infection. And then later we noticed that children, several weeks following their initial COVID infection, were coming in and actually ending up in the intensive care unit with evidence of poor heart function, elevated heart enzymes, which are a marker of heart damage, and even one or two deaths.
Wow, that's very stark. And I know that especially during these times, it's really tough to handle the gravity of this situation still, even a couple years after how impactful COVID has been. Now, right now, there's a lot of mystery about the after effects of COVID-19 still, and especially these long-term effects. What do you think we might see down the road? What might be the long-term effects of COVID?
Well, we still don't know. Fortunately, most children do not experience long-term effects of COVID, but a minority, maybe 5 to 15%, are experiencing problems with fatigue, confusion, sort of brain fog, sluggishness, some shortness of breath. Some get dizzy when they change position. We don't yet know how long these symptoms are going to last and are still trying to figure out exactly what's causing them.
You look for the most effective ways to treat the serious consequences of COVID in children and young adults. Do we have any leads currently at this moment? And if so, what do you think might pan out?
Yes, I don't think we do. In fact, the main focus of this research is really to characterize the nature and depth of the problem, because until we know that, we can't even begin to target therapies. So it's really too early to say that we have the answers or we have the medicines. We still actually need to understand the scope and gravity of the situation.
Dr. Wood and his colleagues at Children's Hospital Los Angeles and other area hospitals will study tens of thousands of people to learn what we can about the long-term effects of COVID. Dr. Wood, thank you very much for joining us on Annenberg Media. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, what's arguably the biggest event taking place this weekend? Bingo. No, the Super Bowl, of course. The game will be played at the newly built SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, which is reported to have cost between $5 and $6 billion. I don't even have that money in my pocket. City officials pushed for the development of SoFi Stadium for years, claiming it would support local businesses. But as we get ready for the first Super Bowl there, many residents of Inglewood say their reality has not lived up to the politicians' promises. They express concern about gentrification and the stadium's impact on residents and local businesses. Hussein Mohammed, the owner of the Inglewood restaurant Banadir Somali, spoke with Sam Tarlov.
So, as you probably know, the Super Bowl is going to take place in Inglewood this Sunday at the newly built SoFi Stadium. And so now, since the stadium's approval in 2016, there have been many concerns about how it has impacted gentrification in Inglewood. And so rents and home sale prices have gone up dramatically in the past few years, and many residents have been displaced. So I just wanted to ask, has your business or any surrounding small businesses felt the economic impact of the stadium being built?
The city, general, the city of Inglewood did not do very well in supporting the local business. Actually, they have done a lot worse than that because, as you know, this is a working neighborhood. People who live around this area and even support our business are people who work at the airport. Most of them live around the city of Inglewood, and Inglewood has somehow approved to the owners to raise their rentals approximately 70 to 60%.
How has the displacement of longtime residents specifically affected your business?
Well, I used to open my business from 6 a.m. until 9 to 10 p.m. Now, because there's no employee who lives around this area who's going to come and open the business or while we are shopping, I have to open the business 10 a.m. and close 8 p.m., cut all these hours. So we can shrink the hours we work and also shrink the menu. We used to have like 10, 12 items. Now we only have 6 items, period.
Do you think that high-profile events such as the Super Bowl and other events that are going to be taking place at SoFi in the future will place a focus on Inglewood that could possibly bring about positive change in the community?
No, it might be good for big business that's going to come in, but a small family-owned business like us, we will be chased out. Clearly, we're not going to be. If this city become as bigger as they are predicting, and the way they are really shouldering out and chasing out small businesses and restriction that is imposing the businesses, no, it's not going to be good for anyone.
Hussein Mohammed, the owner of Banadir Somali restaurant in Inglewood, spoke with Annenberg Media's Sam Tarlov. And that's all we have time for on today's From Where We Are. Yuki Liang, Arohi Sheth, and Fernando Cienfuegos produced today's show. We had help from Mandy Kong, Xingyang Zhang, Nia McMillan, Claire Haskell, Bobby Gifford, and Michael Gribben. Fernando Cienfuegos is our technical operator, and Derek Renfro composed our theme music. We stream live on KXSC. Follow KXSC at kxsc.org/listen, and on YouTube at Annenberg Radio News. Subscribe to From Where We Are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're looking for more news, be sure to download Annie, Annenberg's news app. And look for us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Annenberg Media. I'm Colby Martin. From all of us at Annenberg Radio, wherever you are, we hope you'll join us again for From Where We Are.